So, welcome to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. Today, we are sitting down with Sheila Neisler with Catalyst Tampa Bay. Welcome.
Welcome. Glad to be here. Happy Friday.
Yes, it's Friday. The weekend's here,
hmm
springtime. Um, so, let's start with Catalyst Tampa Bay
Okay.
and just what is that? What do you do?
Catalyst Tampa Bay is a marketing strategy company that I help companies come up with good ideas. I usually use the tagline, better ideas, better results.
Mm,
So most people, especially small business owners or independent business owners, they know how to make a widget. They may not know how to sell it or market it.
hmm
So I get them kind of thinking about they're in the business of widget making, but I help them get into the business of widget selling
hmm
and primarily work with small business owners because that's my background. That's my family's background.
Yeah.
And just looking for novel ways to get your name out without breaking your bank, for gosh sakes. I mean, that's marketing can be expensive, but if it's done right, it's a very good investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Marketing is interesting. And we'll touch on that a little bit. But I want to go back to the beginning of this company. So, you've had this company, you started it 20 years
Yeah,
ago?
20 years ago.
Okay.
Yes.
So what did you do before that? How did you get started in into marketing?
So basically, I'm a St. Pete native, and
Cool.
then went to Florida State and got a degree in finance and management.
Okay.
And, went to go work for well, it was called Trust Company Bank.
Okay.
It's now Truist, as a financial analyst. So I was in their corporate headquarters, analyzing loans.
Yeah.
And so I love the numbers, and that's where I started looking at marketing from a revenue generating thing than just an expense. And so got married and moved to California, and I started, graduate school at that time, with a focus in finance, and then we moved to Charleston, South Carolina,
Okay.
and there were no banking jobs available except, retail, and I didn't wanna do retail. There were no corporate opportunities,
Okay.
and so I read about 2 women that did gift baskets in a Self magazine in New York, and I flew up there and I said, "Tell me what you do." And I realized that people were doing gift baskets as thank you gifts. But in Charleston, which is tremendously driven by the travel industry,
Yeah.
it could be an extension of your marketing plan.
Okay.
And so I started doing my research and realized that if you go to Baltimore or Miami or Atlanta, you're going to get the same bottle of wine and cheese in the hotel room. Whereas if you're selling Charleston, South Carolina, sell it, have locally made foods.
Yeah.
And so I started that and built it up to about 10 to 12,000 baskets a year. So,
That you were selling.
yes, exactly. So
Okay.
so a resort would say, "I need 50 baskets at $50 a piece," or "I
Okay.
need 30 baskets at $30 a piece."
hmm
That's what my clientele was, and so I started, I invested in, like, ribbon, an imprinter so that if you're a Coca-Cola executive and you check into a hotel, it didn't say, "The hotel welcomes you," it was, "Coca-Cola welcomes you."
Mm.
So the salespeople realized that that was a great opportunity to reinforce their brand of focusing in on the customer.
Mm.
So I built it up. And then I had a number of national associations call me and say, "Could you speak at our annual conventions? Could you talk about marketing?" And I went, "Well, I don't know anything about marketing." And they go, "Well, then just tell people how you grew from, a little
Zero to
warehouse to 12,000 baskets a year, 12,000
yeah.
gifts a year." And so then my husband and I moved to Charlotte, and some of those big companies that were ordering gift baskets for all their annual meetings or their board meetings or whatever came to me and they said, "We like your brains better than your baskets.
Mm.
Can you help us build our business so we can order more baskets, but we'd really like to just build our business?"
Mm.
And so that's how I look at marketing. There's a difference. Some people are marketing people that happen to go into business.
hmm
Okay. They work for an ad agency or something. I'm a business person that happens to do marketing.
hmm
So I look at the holistic, um, the business. One of the things I was meeting with a gentleman today, and I said, you're in a transportation company. I said, let's track your peaks and valleys. You've probably got some time during the day where you and your drivers, which were 9 drivers, were slow. How can we drive revenue during those slower times?
hmm
Because anybody can make money in the peaks.
Yeah.
How do you do it in the trough?
Yeah.
And so a normal marketing person would say, "Oh, let's run some more ads. Let's do this." I'm going, "No, let's how about, a residential loyalty program?"
Mm.
So, it's a different way of looking at
Yeah.
marketing from, I look at the top line and the bottom line because marketing is not for somebody's ego or for their brand awareness. It's, have you created jobs or have you created a good living for yourself?
Right. 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 So do you, yeah, I mean that's a good there's a lot to unpack there. How did you, let me see, what do I want to ask you? When you when you started in the gift basket
Mhm.
business, did you, is that something you always wanted to do, was be a business owner, or was that like, what was that process like of
I
like
think
starting?
yeah, I think that was it because my dad started his own company.
Okay.
And, he was a very successful swimming pool builder,
Okay.
and my brother started his own company, so I think we came from a line of scrappy people that said, We're not meant for the corporate world,"
Yeah.
you know? Had a wonderful run in banking, but again, I was the type of person to say, you know my job doesn't end. I love what I do. So if it's on the weekends, I look for creative things to help my clients.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like, okay, let's turn it off. It's risk reward. But I think it was in my DNA.
Yeah.
Literally,
Like you grew up around that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I grew
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so do you think your approach to like your business now to marketing was is enhanced by your background in finance? Like that
Absolutely,
perspective? Yeah.
absolutely, and because I think it's really important that, and this is where people get frustrated with marketing because it depends on. I usually say if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. If you're selling social media, you're looking at impressions. I'm going to step back and say, what's your revenue like from that? What's your
Mhm.
ROI? And having that finance background, I can ask those kind of questions and
Yeah.
say, this is great, but at the end of the day, did you put money in the bank? Did
Mhm.
you have a transaction?
'Cause that's the whole point of marketing,
Exactly.
right? How do you
Exactly.
define marketing?
To me, I very simple. To me, marketing is just a conversation with a client or with a prospect. It's
Mm,
a conversation. The average sale takes between 5 and 12 contacts.
mm.
And that's old data. Somebody said
Yeah,
this
yeah.
says it's actually gotten up to 13 to 19. But how do you have that conversation other than, do you want to buy now? What can you do
Right.
um, to kind of engage that conversation and keep it going? There's a wonderful woman, Sherry Lazarus, with Ogilvy and Mather, and she created, basically coined the word 360 marketing.
Okay.
And, how she kinda learned this is, she rose through the ranks and she called on Ford. And think about calling on Ford in the '60s. So you walk into a boardroom, they're all men with, white shirts on and pocket protectors, and they're probably all smoking
Mhm.
and they're all engineers.
Yeah.
And so she did this song and dance. And they said, "Lady, your background is selling hair dye and bras," because she
Mm,
worked for Playtex and she worked for Clairol
okay.
in Chicago. And what do you know about our engine? What do you know about our mileage? What do you know about our bucket seats? What do you know about our colors?
Mhm.
And she said, "You know what? I've got a question for you. At that point, he was spending, $20 million a year on marketing, advertising. And they said, so I see what you do in, television, and I see your direct mail, and I see your radio, and I see this wonderful, sales show and stuff like that. The only time it matters is when someone walks into your showroom.
Mhm.
Why are you spending all this money telling everybody you're different with your cars and your engine and stuff like that? And the customer experience is the same one that they get at Nissan, at Chrysler, and at Chevrolet. You
Mhm.
haven't differentiated yourself.
Mhm.
Why are you spending all this money when you're not different?
Yeah.
And there was this huge pause. And the next words were, yes, you've got the business.
Yeah.
Because she
They
was
haven't thought
looking at,
about that before.
yeah, she was looking at the business from the customer's perspective.
Mhm.
They were busy selling a car. She was trying to sell it. What does the customer want?
Yeah.
So if you
How do
look
they
at
feel like when they purchase that? Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and that's what and I love when, like Fitzgerald just down the street, they have an amazing experience when you go in there. They're
Right.
creating that brand that they respect you, they trust you, and you're creating like a solidifying a buying habit
Mhm.
with that
Yeah.
customer experience.
Yeah. Um, where do you think a lot of businesses go wrong in marketing, right? Because there's so many different ways to market
Mhm,
now, especially with technology and ads and digital ads and all that kind of
mhm.
stuff. Where do you see like a lot of businesses making mistakes?
It's the same mistake I made. The
Yeah.
same mistake. I sat there, there was 2 years in a row, I was on the cover of Charleston Magazine, okay? During December. I mean, okay, I sell gift baskets. That's a pretty big time for us.
Yeah.
Okay? So I just sat there and said, "Look, my public relations, my PR is gonna drive sales." It didn't.
Hmm.
It really didn't, and then I was in Charlotte, I was on the Business Journal, and it still didn't. So I automatically assumed that someone outside of me was gonna drive my revenue, and the key is
Mm,
get out in the community, build your brand. Most people, unless you're an e-commerce business,
mhm.
but, the number one, most trusted form of advertising, and Nielsen, the ratings people,
Yeah.
89% trust referrals from people they know.
Mm,
So it's still that personal touch. The digital and advertising and radio and stuff like that, that's a lot of noise. But the more people you know, and if you present yourself well and
mhm.
you're a trusted advisor or whatever, and you're putting the customer first, that is going to be the best thing. And most people think, oh, I'll just buy some digital, I'll buy some Facebook ads. I'll post every day on Instagram. But I'm encouraging people to get out from behind the keyboard
Yeah.
and in front of key people.
Yeah. So it's building the relationship.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if you're selling a service or a product, right? It's the same
Absolutely.
same concept.
It's people to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is interesting. I remember having this thought probably a couple years ago where it's like realizing this in real estate. It's all relationships.
Mhm.
It's the people you know, and it's the same thing with any business, right?
Yeah,
It's just all comes down to relationships,
exactly.
connecting with people. So how do you do that? Um, how do you do that with your business, right? And is like the marketing, like the ads and like I mean, I think that stuff is necessary, right?
Well,
Like you still need
there's 41 different channels for marketing.
41 different channels.
41. So and,
Are some more effective than the others, or it just
It
depends
de
on the
it
business?
depends on it depends on the product and the customer, the
Yeah.
target market. Because there's lots of ways that small business owners can get their name out. I met you at a Palm Harbor Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
That's one of the most effective tools. You get your name out, you come across professional, you come across wanting to help others.
Yeah.
That creates, you're not just another real estate agent, and I think, you're Donnie. And
Right.
I think that's the thing that small business owners don't realize that their best customers are probably right down the street.
Mm,
I mean, there's one case, Barefoot Wines. There's a great story about Barefoot Wines,
okay.
and they were trying to get their name out, and they literally started in their laundry room, and they ended up at the boardroom. Ernest and Julio Gallo bought them at the peak. They were the number one brand in the world for
Wow.
wine.
Wow.
And they didn't spend any money on traditional advertising.
Wow.
What they did was they called it worthy cause marketing, so that they went to, a community in Chinatown in San Francisco, and
Okay.
they wanted to rebuild, um, the playground for the children. And so they asked them, they said, "Would you give us free wine?" And so they showed up, and they said, "Not only will we do the free wine, we'll pour it, we'll explain it, our growers will talk to the people." And it
Mhm.
was kind of that building that relationship to say and aligning with a cause that they believed in, helping
Mm,
children.
mhm.
And it was very funny because that was like on a Saturday. On the following Tuesday, they couldn't sell their wine anywhere. The following Tuesday, all of the local grocery stores ran out of wine of Barefoot
Oh, barefoot
Wines
wine. Yeah.
because people said, "These people care about us."
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a cause marketing thing, which is one of the main channels that I use is how do you align, with a cause that fits your brand and
Mhm,
fits who you are, and you're helping others, but you're also making yourself stand out from your competition.
mhm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you think a lot of businesses struggle with identifying who they are, like what their messaging
Absolutely,
is? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is, I've seen people like go to events and what's your why? Well, here's my why. They show up their family. That's my
Yeah,
why. My kids. No, no. Why are you in your specific business?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
why am I in my specific business? Is that I saw how hard my parents worked and they didn't know anything about marketing and how hard my dad was really good at it. He developed relationships and that's where referral marketing as a swimming pool company, he developed that kind of business. So he would meet with home builders who needed pools
Mm,
or condo builders. And he built that kind of relationship. So any ads that he ran weren't working, but I want to help other people that are working so hard
mhm.
be more successful
Yeah,
because their heart is in it,
yeah, yeah.
And so that's my why.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it is. It feels good when somebody calls me and says, "My sales are up 80% over 2 years ago."
Yeah. For probably simple, just switching some few things around,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so, I had a question here. I was gonna say, what do you enjoy about being was kind of what you just touched on, but what do you enjoy about being a business owner
Um,
versus, like, the employee?
um, I guess 2 things, the freedom. Okay, I have more freedom, but that means I have more freedom to work whichever 60 hours a week I wanna
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
But also the possibilities. I get to
Yeah.
see that I get to choose my career
Yeah.
versus having somebody, it's always good to have mentors, but if you're gonna be in a corporate world, it's very institutionalized. And one of the things middle managers are good at is making sure everybody steps in line and follows the process. That does not that culture doesn't allow for change and evolution. It's only when if the system's broke will they look for other things
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're going, "Hey, we're rocking along."
Right.
If you own your own business, you get to create your own future,
Mhm. Yeah. It's pretty
and
cool.
yeah, and it's very powerful. And it's very you're the same business as I am. We're both entrepreneurs.
Yep.
We get to create our own future.
Yeah. It's so exciting, but it's also, like, challenging at the same time, which I think kinda makes it part of that excitement, right? Because it's
Well, it's
it's
scary.
right, right.
It's just like, "Oh my gosh," it's really funny because, I had a very successful business in the Carolinas, and, even though I grew up in St. Petersburg, I came back down to to take care of my mother, and, one of the things happened was, how I got most of my business was public speaking. I was helping others. And so I got my name out and people said, "I want what she's got. I want
Mm,
some of that." And
mm,
so getting that out there and say, sometimes I don't want to do speaking or I don't want to go to a chamber event, I realize that's what is driving my success.
mm. Was that kind of like your transition period, but with the gift basket business into marketing was, like, public speaking? Like, so you did some public
I
speaking
did
about
I
marketing?
Yeah, I did some public speaking and a lot of it wasn't necessarily about marketing. It was this is how I succeeded. And I would tell people like with corporate, obviously from a banking background, I would get in an elevator in Charlotte and the only way you knew I wasn't a banker is I had a little gift basket with me. So I dressed like I work for them and that would help
Okay.
me in essence work for them.
Yeah.
And so getting people to think about, and I also realized the basket, coming at it from a business standpoint, nobody really cared about what the bow looked like.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I looked at the gift basket as a marketing vehicle. Again, you've got 5 to 12 touches or whatever. A gift basket is just one
One
touch.
touch, yeah.
I just wanna make it the best touch, obviously, so
Yeah,
that when
yeah.
you call and schedule the other appointment, "Oh, thank you for the chocolates. Oh, thank you for the gifts. Thank you for, whatever." And it created, again, that conversation
Mhm.
with your customer.
Yeah. That's awesome. So tips for new business owners, like, if you had to give one tip, someone's thinking about starting a business today, um, like, what's one tip for them to kind of get started and kind of find and fine tune their messaging?
Really, it's we're lucky to be in Florida for if at one point, Tampa, St. Petersburg was the number 1 place in America for a woman to start a business.
Oh wow.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
The resources that are available for small business owners just starting
Yeah.
are unbelievable. You have got SCORE, you've got SBDC to help you get a loan.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, and SBDCs are almost are in every county. You have got the greenhouse in St. Petersburg that always has workshops. These are all free to attend. In Tampa, it's the ECC, the Entrepreneurial Collaborative,
Okay.
all free classes. I mean, and so there's opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
It will not replace hard work and rolling up your sleeves to do it because 'cause you've got to do it.
Yeah.
But there's so many places that you can go to get, to have access to if you don't have the knowledge, if you know how to make a widget, but you don't know how to sell it, you've got tons of resources. And the best thing that happened was, good things did come out of COVID was, obviously SCORE is an older demographic of people that have been successful business owners. Well, obviously, when they went online because, everybody did it, you can actually go to score.org and type in your business or whatever your profession is.
Okay.
I'm a hair weaver or something.
Yeah.
And you have access to a nationwide group of mentors who probably one person is probably has been in that same
Oh
business.
wow.
Yeah. So it's not like you're starting a cosmetic company and you end up being paired with a banker.
Right. Right.
No,
Right.
you could say, "I'm starting a cosmetic company." There's probably a retired executive that worked for a major cosmetic company
Yeah.
that you can use as a mentor.
Yeah. That's
So the access, you just gotta raise your hand
so
and
this.
roll up your sleeves.
Yeah. That I kind of just learned about Score a little bit. I just had Forster from. Um,
SBDC.
yeah.
Mhm.
He was just on, and so I just learned about like some of the resources they
Mhm,
have. I didn't realize all this stuff was available,
mhm,
right? And you've put on events and stuff like that before with Score. Um, so it's yeah, you're right. Like that, those are great resources for that are free.
mhm. Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, but again, at the end of the day, you gotta do the doing.
yeah,
And that's where everybody runs into it because they'll have all this excitement and then it dies. You've got this
yeah,
entrepreneurial high and I'm going, "Okay, let's create a process
yeah.
to get you." And the other thing that I do is I actually teach goal setting classes,
Oh,
that
I
have
like
been
that.
very successful. I was in Asheville and a bank called me. I was handling their marketing for some of their clients. And they said, we've got some clients that are interest only, or their loans they hadn't been paid. And so I started meeting with them one on one. I went, no, let's bring everybody together. And each said their own goals. And your goal's different from mine,
Yeah.
but we would meet every week and we would talk about what our successes were and our resets or our setbacks
Mm,
and what we learned from it. So it was group learning,
yeah. And
when
some
you own your own
accountability.
business. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the accountability.
yeah,
And when you run your own, it's the loneliest job in the world.
yeah.
You go home to your spouse and go, "I had a great day," and the spouse is going to go, "Okay, fine." But if you're in a group of other entrepreneurs, to
Yeah,
say, "Okay, I made 100 calls this week and no one returned my phone call." They'd
yeah,
go, "Been there, done that. This is
yeah.
how I got out of it."
Right.
How I got out of my slump.
Yeah.
And having that, the data, I'm gonna, again, from being the banker, the data says that if you have an accountability group, you've got 77% chance of actually achieving your goals.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It does it matter if the accountability group is within the same business or just they can be different
Different businesses, and I
different business?
actually encourage different businesses because,
Yeah.
first of all, it's not a sales group, it's not a leads group,
Yeah.
but you can build referrals. And it
Oh,
was really funny because
okay.
we did our own, measurement, obviously for accountability. And we had 30 people in the group in Asheville, and it was great. The one person that had the worst experience was she was selling mobile phones
Okay.
or whatever. And she said, I didn't make a single sale. And I said, "The reason you didn't make a single sale was we put at the very beginning, this is not a leads club. This
Mm,
is not a place that you sell. We're here to support each other
mhm.
because it's you versus you.
Yeah,
It's not you competing with somebody else."
right.
And I said, You totally had the wrong perspective, and that's why you didn't sell anything." You
Mhm.
know, you I always like the country music. You were looking for sales in all the wrong places, like looking for love in all the wrong places. You were
Yeah,
looking for sales.
yeah, I love that. Well, one thing I wanna wrap up with is, being a St. Pete native,
Mhm.
if you when you're not working, we're not helping another small business, what is one thing that Sheila likes to do on her downtime? Like, if you're going to a restaurant, going to a park, the water, like, what is it? Where are you going?
I I'm actually going to New York. No, no, and no, and this is what I do. I mean, if you listen, if you follow Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs got all of his ideas not in his office. The
Ah,
Genius Bar is he got that from the Four Seasons Hotel in San Diego. So it's having different experiences
yeah.
kind of fuels creativity.
Yeah, yeah.
It fuels energy. I mean, so I love going to museums. I love walking outside. I love reading. I just having different experiences kind of bolsters me and gets my creative juices thinking.
I love that because I think about that when, like, traveling, right? When
Mhm,
we go on vacation or whatever, it's
mhm,
kinda the same thing, like, it just opens up especially going abroad, or out of the country.
mhm,
It's a totally different experience, totally different world, and you're like, "Oh, wow," it just opens up your mind,
mhm.
like, to
I
more pos
I yeah, I try to go to New York, around 4 times a year, but I
Okay.
say, what they go, "What are you doing up there?" I said, "It recalibrates me." It absolutely
Yeah,
does.
that's your spot, yeah.
Yeah, so I would look for business organizations during the week.
Okay.
So I'd go to a chamber of commerce meeting, or I'd go to
Ah,
a
cool,
SCORE meeting, or
cool.
I'd go to a Rotary meeting just to have a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. I like that. Well, how can people learn more about you and what you do? Maybe go to one of your classes that you're teaching.
Absolutely. The best place to go is, you can go to my website, catalystgetsresults.com,
Okay.
because again, my focus is results. So catalystgetsresults.com. I do have 2 upcoming, workshops. On the 25th, I'm doing something at the greenhouse. Now, many of these, because they're coming through SCORE, are also hybrid. So you can learn in your pajamas. And so,
Okay.
I've got an evening event on the 25th
Okay.
in St. Petersburg, but again online,
Okay.
and then on the 29th, I have another workshop called The Missing Pieces of Marketing, and that's gonna be at the
Interesting.
Tarpon Springs Library,
Oh, cool.
and again, hybrid. So
Yeah.
you can get that information, and also if you go to, the St. Pete Greenhouse, they have got a whole catalog of prior workshops that
That's
you can
recorded.
yeah, that you
Oh,
can
cool.
just you put in whatever finance or manufacturing or marketing or social media, they'll have a whole library of recorded webinars.
Yeah, that's cool. And we'll link some of those resources in the description as well. So,
Cool.
Sheila, thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you.